Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning weekly entertainment podcast. And on this episode, we will be discussing a few things in movie and TV news before diving into specific TV episodes that impacted us. It's going to be an interesting topic. I hope. I don't know. But let's get on with the show. My name is Aaron Peterson. Joining me today are my fellow host, John Davenport.
Hey, Aaron, how you doing today?
I do not have that kind of energy in my body anywhere whatsoever.
Do you want me to turn it down a bit?
I would say, I think you're at a 15 right now. Just bring it down to about 8.5.
I don't know what those numbers
That's
are.
a 1. That's a 1. That's a 1.2. That's what that is.
That's a 1.2?
So bring it up to about an 8.
All right, let's try this. Hey, Aaron, how you doing today?
There you go. That's closer. All right. I like it.
Is that an 8, 7?
It's at least an 8.
I was trying to go for really? Okay.
Yeah. Amanda Sink is here too, I think.
Yeah. Hello.
And Troy Heinrichs.
What's up, everybody?
What's up? Oof.
Shut up, Troy!
Jesus. There it is. That's the 15.
Okay. All right. We're back to that.
Somebody just ran into a brick wall. That's what just happened. Swerved into traffic. Hit a nun. Something. Don't forget, if you didn't know, that our interview with Reacher star Alan Ritchson, as well as the review of season 1, is out as its own episode in the podcast feed. So just look for it now if you haven't already heard it. We talked to the star, and we also reviewed the entire season, spoiler-free, of Reacher, which will be on Prime Video February 4th. Go watch it. I want a season 2 so bad. So bad.
I haven't even seen it, and I want a season 2 so bad.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm already down. Like, I as soon as I saw the trailer for Reacher, I recognized bits and pieces of that first book in that trailer, and I'm like, are you kidding? They're going to actually do a book out of this?
Yeah, the whole season's the book, the first book, Killing Floor.
That's pretty great, because it's of what I read of that first book, I did enjoy it. I got to go back and revisit it again, though.
So you didn't finish it? Did you just read the jacket?
There's jackets?
You just read the description on Wikipedia? Is that what you read?
Yeah, that's all I did.
That's all I did.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm practically illiterate. How do you expect me to read these things?
There's no Tom Cruise Easter eggs in there, though, that I could find. Like, no, small action figures hanging around or anything. Nothing.
Or crazy running? Is there any crazy running?
No tiny throwbacks to the movie?
He does run, but he's so big, he just lumbers forward.
His arms are quite large and in charge.
Yeah, they're huge, man.
Does he lumber or does he move more like a freight train? Because I imagine him moving like a freight train.
Is there a difference between those two? I mean, I don't know. I've never been
lumbering is kind of like do-rum, do-do, do-do.
No, it means
that's
your upper body's pushing you forward. So everything's in your upper body. A freight train, I've never been attacked by one. I don't know what that looks like.
I'm pretty sure if he attacked you, that would be it.
It's pretty large. Anything new happening in everybody's world? Everybody feeling good, happy, joyous?
I'm pretty thrilled, man. I don't know if you could tell, but my Jeep is home, and I love my Jeep.
How long have you not had this Jeep?
3 months. 3 months, Aaron.
That's awesome. Yeah, so people know John was sending us videos of him driving in the snow because he's in, North Carolina, right? That's where you're at? Yeah. We live in the Chicago area. So to us, it just looks like a guy driving in the snow. And he's just like, look at all this. It's just driving in the snow, man. We do this like every day, literally, for 5 months.
Yeah, but I was driving on the side of a cliff in the snow.
Again, we have those.
I've been to where you live. No, you don't.
Wisconsin, we've all been to Wisconsin. There's plenty of them in Wisconsin. Trust me.
It's called the expressway and the interchange.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking about actual cliffs. No guardrails.
Well, there was a guy. This happened twice, actually, in Milwaukee, in the interchange by the zoo.
That's not Chicago.
It's close enough. But he literally made
like
the corner.
An hour and a half.
Wait, hold on a second. You guys are like, we live in Chicago.
We're all in the area. It's not downtown. We're not all downtown, you weirdo.
Yeah, it takes me just as long to get to Milwaukee.
Milwaukee
as it does to get to
is in Chicago. Is considered part of Chicago.
Yeah,
it's Chicago North.
Yeah,
it's been annexed.
I mean, you go Milwaukee, Chicago, same distance for us. So
the snow was plowed up against the side rail, and it was so high that it was overneath.
He hopes.
It was over the guardrail, so like people were coming around the corner.
I'll put you over a guardrail.
Somebody's coming over the corner,
and they ramped. They literally ramped off the interchange and fell.
I'm gonna ramp you off real soon.
Whatever.
I want to hear the rest of the story. I'm the only one listening.
We're listening.
He fell 70 feet and the truck landed on the tires and the guy was fine.
Oh, wow.
Okay, well, I don't have anything to say that's funny compared to that.
Well, he didn't die, so you can make all the jokes you want.
Right. I'm just saying, there's no funny joke to, like, he fell 70 feet and landed on his tires. Like, what am I going to do? Like, oh, I'll make you land on your tires. What? That's not funny.
You could just say that he's going to bounce back when he comes back to work the next day.
That recoil,
Jesus.
though, that recoil is important.
I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever bounces off me.
It was a pretty shocking event for him, I'm sure.
You're trying so hard. It's cute what you guys are doing. All right, so the Halo trailer came out, and I didn't know if you guys, I think you guys got to see it. It was going to be on Paramount Plus.
For our project today on the show, I went ahead and did Paramount Plus through Amazon, and I saw the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually okay with the fact that I have Paramount Plus, because as much as I didn't give a damn about that game ever, I'll watch that show.
It's The Mandalorian.
It's
with a gold shield. It's really, I mean, to be fair, this came out long before The Mandalorian, so actually Mandalorian kind of rips Halo off if you really think about it.
That's true, but if there's going to be like a baby Spartan running around,
baby Cortana running around,
anything like that, then yeah, it's completely ripping off of Mandalorian. But I don't give a shit.
I would watch that, just so you know.
Baby Cortana?
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. Anyway, it looks great. I mean, originally there was going to be a movie with Neil Blomkamp was going to do it years and years and years ago.
Yep.
And that never happened. So I'm happy with this. It looks like a solid entry. And God knows we were running short on TV shows. You know what I mean? I had nothing to watch. I'm tired of trying to find things to watch.
I mean, this looked exactly like the version of Dune we should have gotten.
Fun. Interesting.
Yeah.
Engaging.
Interesting.
Entertaining.
I saw sand. I saw explosions. I saw aliens fighting humans. Like it's like a perfect fit.
I mean, I don't think Halo's at all like Doom, but I'm with you. Doom would be better.
If there's a sandworm at some point in time,
you're just going to call it Dune?
Are the Dune books even fun?
I think the books are fun. The Dune books are fun. They're interesting because it's a lot of like Game of Thrones politicalness to it. So
no,
definitely...
you could have just said no.
Some people find that great. It just doesn't translate to the film.
It was great for Game of Thrones. I don't need another show that does that.
This is kind of, I thought, very cool. We are recording this at this moment, on this day, on the anniversary of the re-release of the Star Wars Special Editions, where they were released, where Star Wars came out, and then Empire Strikes Back came out, and then Return of the Jedi came out like a couple weeks later. And I remember watching that and those films in those subsequent weeks, which kind of rejuvenated my Star Wars love because it had been so long since I had seen them in a theater and whatnot. But I was thinking, and I don't know if I've had that same wistful, magical, childlike, innocent love of Star Wars since maybe Force Awakens got me there a little bit. But man, all it made me do is wish I had the same feeling for Star Wars that I had then. And I want to know if you guys kind of have that as well, or am I just that old guy that needs to get off the lawn or whatever?
So you want the excitement of standing in line for 12 hours to buy a ticket.
Oh, yeah.
To get back in line to stand for another 10 hours
to
go to the midnight showing that you slept through because you were outside in the sun the whole day.
Not
That's
that
what you
feeling.
Want.
Different feeling. It's that one where you get there and you sit down and it just takes you back to the first time you watch. It's just one of those experiences where it takes you back to the first time you ever saw it. It makes you excited to see the next chapter and the next chapter, and you want to just keep reliving it because it's so magical. And I don't know if Star Wars still has that impact for a lot of people, and that's what I'm curious about.
I've thought about this a lot, and I've wondered whether or not it's an age thing versus an actual want thing. Because I was always a big Star Wars fan, and I didn't need the release of the movies to reopen my love for the Star Wars world, because I had been reading the books throughout the years and really just diving into it as much as I can that way. Before they even re-released these, I actually got a tattoo on my arm of the Rebel Alliance insignia there, and I adored Star Wars. When these movies came out, it was the first time for most of these movies, with for New Hope and for Empire Strikes Back, that I got to see them in the theater, and because I was too young and in a different country for those two, and then Return of the Jedi was very much like I was going back to the theater and being however old I was when Return of the Jedi originally came out. have I had that feeling since then? For Phantom Menace, I really enjoyed the build up to Phantom Menace, much like the same way. And then as the subsequent prequels came out, that build up and that enjoyment kind of diminished with each additional movie. And then with the J.J. Abrams Skywalker finishing saga, whatever you want to call it, for Force Awakens, I was hopeful and I was excited, but not nearly.
You're not going to go through like every single movie, right? You're just going to.
No,
okay.
I'm just the same thing I just did. And then the other ones, it was again subsequently less and less excited as the movies came out.
Okay, because I was just waiting for, and then on Rogue One, I showed up at 8:45, and
I am to the point where Star Wars was something magical and fun and exciting, especially because we had to wait to see more. And when it came back, it was all very exciting. And at this point where I'm at right now is I'm just burned out on it. And I have been for a little while. There's just too much in this world that I don't know. I feel like I don't even have any interest in it.
Well, I remember that the special edition release in the theaters was definitely something I was super excited for, because like John said, first time you'd ever seen it on the big screen. Like we were two wee little babies at the time when the first one came out.
That's all I'm saying.
You're not that much older than I am.
I saw it in a theater on a re-release, but long time
on a re-release, but you didn't see it in 1977 when it actually released.
I might have. I don't recall. I was busy, not paying attention and probably shitting myself.
Drinking apple juice.
That's right, eating Cheerios that his mom chewed up for him first.
What?
And then Baby Bird.
Baby Bird? Yeah. Ew.
What the hell? What kind of life do you think I live? Mom, I'm hungry.
His
Starting
mom
on
couldn't
it.
afford Cheerios. He's told us he's been poor.
I don't think it's going to have a magical, childlike, innocent love of Star Wars. I don't think that that's ever going to be there. But I think that there is a anticipation factor, because I think some of the things they're doing book related, when they were talking about the High Republic and the olden days and things before Skywalker and Anakin and all of that stuff came to be, like there's some great stuff there that you could tell some really great stories with. And I think could be really great movies, especially when you see it in the final chapter of the Skywalker saga, when they go down where the Emperor is and you see the giant statues. Like there's like, it's kind of like Lord of the Rings going back into the Second Age. Like we need to do that with Star Wars. We need to go back to the High Republic. We need to learn more about Siths and Jedi and the temples and the mysticism. I think you can do some really cool stuff with that. That would get me more magical and childlike again, versus
Don't get me started about the extended universe. Nobody has that kind of time on their hands.
And how it's no longer applicable.
It doesn't exist anymore, so we can't talk about it. But because you can't make stories out of that stuff, which
is ridiculous. I still think that's ridiculous. I mean, we've talked about it before, but it's ridiculous.
You just rework it. Use the concepts and just rework it to fit whatever timeline you're trying to fit. I mean, it'd be fine.
That's what Marvel did.
Yeah. Admiral Thrawn, right? Like Thrawn would be a great thing to follow.
Admiral Thrawn, Seaboth, the Yuuzhan Vong. I mean, I can just to name a few of them. Those are all great villains to throw at the whole thing. The Yuuzhan Vong mostly because you could actually understand why they're doing what they're doing, and it makes sense, and you almost side with them to a degree, but they're also monsters. But that's beside the point. Because don't get me started, Troy.
But even following like Bo-Katan and Ahsoka, like even those characters in a live action sense were amazing adds to Mandalorian, that you could do whole things around them in other parts of the universe. I mean, there's story to tell. Just tell me something that's not Skywalker related.
And maybe not Boba Fett again.
Yeah, like Boba Fett tied to Skywalker. And then you brought Mandalorian and you tied him to Skywalker.
Everything's got to be tied to Skywalker. They got to get away from that. And I wonder, like, do you guys think it's because it's been so diluted? That's why it doesn't impact people? Like, I just don't feel people... I know there's still the passionate fans. There's probably people listening right now that are yelling, going, I live Star Wars. But I don't feel it from the people that I've known in film circles for a long time, that they don't have that same reverence for the properties that they used to have. And I think a lot of that has to do with there's been too many things in a too short of a time. So it's diluted the brand a little bit. So it's taken away some of that magic. Well, that and Rian Johnson obviously ruined everything. According
Flip
according
it
to
and
the
talk
internet.
about in a Marvel or Star Trek perspective. Star Trek's doing the same thing where it's just like, literally, we're going to have Discovery part 2 of the 4th season, Picard, Strange New Worlds. Plus you got Lower Decks, you got the Janeway voice cartoon. I mean, there's like so much Star Trek right now. It's ridiculous.
And so it's the same with Star Wars.
And the same with Marvel. The difference is that at least with Star Trek, they're all different shows and they're not tied together. So it's something different. Where in Marvel, you're watching the Marvel stuff because you have to, because it's all tied together. In the Star Wars, it's like, what's the plan? I think that's the problem with Star Wars is there's no plan right now.
You know, Marvel has quantity and quality mixed in there. Like with the whiffs of Marvel has, there's probably 4 things you can probably call a whiff for Marvel. Whereas Star Wars, there's much more that has whiffed with Star Wars for whatever reason the reason is. So it's diluted only by the fact that the quality of the stories we're getting are kind of derivative and they're missing a lot of they want to build this wide expansive world with Star Wars, but they're missing the connective tissues by huge measures. There's just no head to that. And you have somebody like, I forget her name, but when she turns around and says that Marvel gets to do what they get to do
Kathleen
because
Kennedy.
they can build off of
Kathleen
Kennedy. That's her. I wiped it out of my head because of the line I'm about to say. But she says Marvel can do what they're doing because they have a history of comic books to work with over the decades, and Star Wars just doesn't have that. And it makes me want to hammer my testicles flat when I hear that.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's brutal.
That took a turn. You know what? We're going to segue. Perfect time to get off that subject because I just got uncomfortable. But we're going to kind of move on to a similar subject because another franchise that has been diluted to hell that I had lost my excitement for with the last movie, probably because The Rock wasn't present, kind of got me excited again. I'm going to go to 15 myself because now we have Jason Momoa joining Fast 10 as I assume Dom's long-lost lover, Paul Walker's long-lost brother, somebody else that's never been mentioned for any period of time in any of these movies. But he's joining the franchise, and now suddenly I find myself super excited for the franchise again.
I am so looking forward to this.
Why are you so excited, Amanda?
Because it's Jason Momoa. He has such an energy and presence. He's going to be so fun. I don't care how stupid his role is, although I really am hoping that they take that down a notch because I think they've really started to lean into... No. They've really leaned into being as dumb and ridiculous as possible because they know people are still going to get money and people will laugh about it and yada yada yada. But there's a few of these films where there was like, okay, that was pretty solid, like even the story, and it just has gotten very ridiculous. And so I'd like to see them introduce his character in some sort of a well thought out way. But I don't have my hopes up high. Yeah.
I don't
Have
see
you
that
seen
happening.
these movies?
Yeah.
I have. Yeah.
He's literally going to fall from heaven.
From space. He saw them out in space and he was like, let me go help these guys.
He's going to be an angel or something. It's literally going to be the most ridiculous thing you could think of, where he's going to be Paul Walker's assigned angel to keep an eye on Dom and the squad. That's what it's going to be.
He's going to be Gal Gadot's brother. Is what it is?
Oh,
and he's there
you go. And he's pissed. You got my sister killed. There we go.
Right.
And then he joins the team for the 11th movie, of course.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's the formula.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited. I don't care. Momoa makes everything better, except Lisa Bonet's life, apparently. All right.
Wow.
So,
Dang, too soon.
That was bogus. No.
I'm sorry. The shame within me. The shame within me.
You're above that.
No, I'm not. I mean,
we don't slander the man.
I'm not slandering. I love him. He's one of my favorite people in entertainment. Shame on me for even trying that bad joke. Awful. Let's talk about something sexy. Let's talk about Euphoria. Because that show's under attack by D.A.R.E. You know, the Dare to Keep Kids Off Drugs people. For glamorizing drugs and sexuality because it's dangerous for kids. You know, it's basically making it look sexy to have sex and do drugs. I hate to break it to you, they didn't need Euphoria for that to look interesting. Okay? But many would say that it is presenting this in a truthful manner. It's actually being truthful to how teenagers are in today's environment. Now, I gotta be perfectly honest. I don't watch Euphoria, but I know everybody else does. Does art have a responsibility to be safe? That's the question.
It does, but to the comments that are being made by D.A.R.E on Euphoria, I've seen the show. I'm caught up. I've seen all the episodes, and it is not glorified or glamorized, I don't think, in any way. They make it so apparently awful. They're looking at it not from, I mean, you're getting it narrated and told from Zendaya's perspective, sure, but it's not as lovely. Like, you get to see the gross, horrible pieces of addiction and how it affects and ruins relationships, and how, like, just all of the things that come with doing drugs and then getting off of drugs and wanting to do drugs again. Like, it's not, I don't think it's glorifying it at all. There's a difference between drugs are so much fun, here, let's do this and let's party. And maybe they haven't watched the show and they just have seen some clips or whatever. And maybe they could take that incorrectly by making an assumption. But if you're actually watching the show, it is representing the true reality of addiction and trauma and how the two feed into each other, and the repercussions of that, the consequences, and how generational trauma, if it's not broken, is just going to perpetuate all of that. And it is not cute. It's not nice. It's not fun. It's very cringy to watch because it's uncomfortable. It doesn't make me want to do drugs. It doesn't make me want to be these kids at all.
Well, it comes down to the same problem that we always talk about all the time. It's rated TV MA. Where are the bleeping parents? Yeah. That's the problem, D.A.R.E. Hey, D.A.R.E., maybe you should send out a press release that says, hey, parents, be some freaking goddamn parents. Because the whole point of the show, if you're going to show it to your high schooler, is that you sit down and you watch it with them so that you can have a conversation about it. It's just like 13 Reasons Why. You don't let the kids watch it by themselves. You sit down and you watch it with them. It's not the art's responsibility to make it all safe and princesses and rainbows and Care Bears and My Little Ponies all the time. Like, there's real shit that goes on. My kids are in high school. This stuff happens. It is literally happening every day. I literally had a conversation we were teaching about French kissing in 7th grade at a church in a Bible study group, and the mom freaked out. And I'm like, woman, like, you do not understand.
I hope you started that way. I hope you're like, woman?
I
did. I was
you
like,
females.
I love the juxtaposition of this. I was in a church meeting doing some church learning, and I was like, woman, you're going to go to the kitchen and make some sandwiches for the rest of us.
That is not what he said.
I literally said, if you don't think your kids are doing this already, you are out of touch with your kids, because I was a 7th grade student who French kissed the pastor's daughter. So I'm telling you.
Ooh, you're a little rebel.
That's a story
you're
I kind of want to hear now. I really do.
It happens. I mean, and that's the thing. Parents take no responsibility for I should say, not all parents. Most parents take no responsibility for the upbringing of their children today. And that is a problem. My daughter watched Euphoria last night, right? I think it was the finale last night, I think it was, or close to the finale for season 2. And all I heard was like this exclamation out of the bedroom at like midnight. And I'm just like, what just happened? And I let her watch it because I'm watching it, because then we can have a conversation about it.
But you guys don't watch it together, right? Because there are a lot of penises, and that would be very uncomfortable to watch some swinging. I mean, they're everywhere. Yeah. I've never seen so much male representation in a show or movie in my entire life.
We were missing representation in that regard.
We were. It's so fair. I applaud them for actually doing that, because it's like everybody, if somebody's going to be naked, they're all naked.
Let's come back to the penises and let Troy finish.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, but it's true. I mean, there's like, this season is a lot more risque, I would say, than it was the first season. The first season was very much mental illness. I mean, you had the one lady that's you had the one lady doing her the one student doing her OnlyFans account and trying to get money, right, by like bringing the men in. I mean, yeah, it's there, but it wasn't like in your this was in your face this season.
It wasn't quite 3D.
Season.
Wasn't
Yeah,
just
exactly. But no,
dangling.
it's like these people are just looking for stuff to complain about because they feel like society is, falling apart because we have to have real conversations about real shit. Like, just have conversation. It's no different if you went to the museum and you saw a statue of David with his schlong sitting out there. I mean, you're going to have the conversation about it,
To be fair, back in whenever that time was, they had the same kind of conversations. Somebody coming up and saying, hark, that Peni should not be out in the open like this. Cover that Peni up. Or something. I imagine.
And somebody just chopped it off the statue.
Pray
Yeah.
you don't do Shakespeare anytime soon. I'd really just kind of secretly pray. And also secretly kind of hope you do, because I would go see that.
I do want to add that there's
go ahead.
Sex in general is happening. If you think it's happening, whatever, if you're a parent and you say, oh, sex is going to happen in 9th grade for my kid, I guarantee you it's happening well before whatever you think. I was in 7th grade and a 6th grader, kid you not, was pregnant. She was pregnant in 6th grade. This was years ago. Things are not, it's not like we're moving further into celibacy or something. It's the conversations need to be had. But at the same time, and this is, I think, where Troy and I differ, I think there is somewhat of a responsibility to not censor what you're putting out there in terms of content, but how you're presenting it. So if you're going to have somebody we'll go back to 13 Reasons Why, who is suicidal and who makes that attempt, putting it in such a visual way, while it has a lot of impact on many people who haven't maybe had that experience or who have recovered from experiences, those who are going through it are then, research says that it can impact their decisions on it. And so it's a combination, and this is just my opinion, of doing it in a safe way, but not restricting what you're showing, and also society and parents taking responsibility to connect with their children. But I also recognize that not a lot of children don't have parents or guardians, to even be there. So
I do understand where you're coming from, Amanda. I mean that legitimately. I am not a fan of that is a viewer problem. It shouldn't be the art's problem. The artists should be able to present it however they see fit, and then the art is judged based on what it is, in my opinion. I'll never agree with that concept. I understand why you do, because you care very much about triggers and whatnot. And it's not that I don't care about that. I just feel like if the artist has something in mind, they should put it out there. And if society condemns them, then they condemn them on their own merits. But I don't think they should have to neuter their product because they're concerned. I know that many people do because they don't want to offend people and whatnot. But if they feel very passionately like this is the way to present this particular action or this particular act, and I need to go this for whatever my reasons are, even if they're muddy reasons, it's their right as an artist, I believe, to do that, and then let the viewers decide that as they watch it. I don't think people should censor. I really feel like we as a society are so worried about offending 18 people that I think art does suffer from it. There isn't as much as I look into independent film, and I look in, because that's where a lot of the chances are taken, or I look in mainstream television and film, I don't see as many chances being taken anymore. And I think that's pretty agreeable by most people, but that's my opinion. You guys might feel differently. I don't see those chances being taken because they're worried about bad press. They're worried about being told that they triggered something in any way, shape, or form. So I feel like the artists need to put out the art that they want, and they can be judged on it. That's how I feel.
Yeah, because we're literally listening to a vocal minority that just seems like it's a majority. I mean, a great way to put it, like, we're running the payroll process, right? There's like 2 people that are complaining about the fact that they're not going to get a bonus for like an extra 5 days. So let me stop the process for 20,000 other people that still need to get paid for the 2, right? I think that's kind of what we're here. It's like Twitter's loud. It is what it is, but it's not the entire world. So let's react to the loudest thing out there because the loudest thing is just drowning out the actual people that are like, this is really great television and it should be out there for people to see.
Well, and it's not even Twitter that's having this reaction. It's D.A.R.E, an organization that has continuously failed to address the issue because they focus solely on fear-mongering and scaremongering or whatever the title is, and don't actually get to the root of helping these kids, understand the implications of doing drugs and what happens. And, it might feel really good right now, but guess what? Your teeth are literally going to fall out. Your skin is going to crawl if you don't have it. Your entire life is going to go down the drain. And it's just, they also don't, they don't weaponize weed in the show either, which I thought was kind of interesting.
You know how you handle this is that you actually give your kids drugs and alcohol.
What?
That's what you do.
Whoa. I am not.
In a safe space.
What?
Hey, I would rather have kids, like if my future children do drugs or alcohol while I'm around them, like obviously not something like cocaine or whatever, but if they want to try a little X or something.
Nope. My
it has
rules
to still
never
be
change.
legal in the state. Like if you want a 5 milligram gummy one day because you want to see how it feels and you're 16 or older, if you're old enough to be able to drive a car, you're old enough to be able to do some of this stuff. And I'm of the mindset that if you can't drink, then you shouldn't be driving either. Period. Like you got to be 21. So either lower the drinking age or raise the driving age.
You know that's actually not legal, and by you actually giving that to them, that's an additional law broken. So actually, you've broken 2 laws with that one action.
I'm just saying.
I have the answer.
I feel like parents actually try too hard to be cool to their kids, and it's like just
it's
be a
not
parent.
about being cool. It's about
you're going to get the drugs from me. And
you
not
go
the drugs
do it
from the
when I'm
guy
not around,
who's
and
lacing
you
it.
get hurt on your own time, not in front of me. That's what I say.
Right.
That's parenting.
I have the answer for all this. Okay, we're gonna build a device
and move to a mountain in
is
North Carolina and be isolated.
It's going to be a seat, right? And you have to sit in this chair, and then in front of you, at your feet, 3 pedals show up. And above that, a steering wheel shows up, and then right next to you is going to be a manual stick shift. If you can appropriately change gears without stripping anything, you can finally watch it.
You think
so nobody watches the show ever again.
We can. We'll be watching it all the time. I can stick shift.
I can a little, but not.
I can column shift.
Yeah. Do they still make? I had a stick shift for years, man. For years. And
I had 2 different stick shifts.
You move so much faster. You really do. There's some get up.
I was going to say, in a lot of the stick shifts, like manual, quote unquote, now is so different. It's like you just turn the notch to the right or something instead of actually having to shift through the gears. It's very
I'm so
bizarre.
glad I derailed this conversation.
No, actually,
Aaron, what's up next?
John actually has a really great point. So
is this because it's a stick shift? So the analogy to sexual organs, is that what we're doing here?
Imagine this was AAA coming out and saying like, oh my God, you can't watch that show because it glamorizes stick shifting. I mean, that's the stupidity of this. It's the same concept.
Wait, what?
I don't know where he's going with my
he
idea.
Always,
my idea.
Yeah.
It was off the rails. Wild.
So bizarre.
This is going to be one of those where at the end of the show, you're like, I get it now.
I feel like
the epiphany hits you.
Every
stick shifting
podcast
is so bad for everybody. Like you only can drive automatics.
Every podcast, we have to have a moment where Troy tries to make an analogy and it fails completely. It just gets obliterated. And we all just sit around wondering, what the hell was he talking about?
You know what?
Right, but he
convinced a lot of people that car in Fast 9 could go to space. A lot of people bought that whole argument. So there might be some truth there, and I'm just too stupid to understand it.
My job is to present the art. It's your job to figure out if you want to think about it longer past this conversation.
There you go. That was good.
That's funny. Remember, you can always find more information at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. Join our Facebook group, which is The Hollywood Outsider, over on Twitter at @BuyPopcorn. You can also join our Patreon, where you get 2 bonus episodes a month, depending on which tier you sign up for. Our show is independently funded, so it does help the show. We really do appreciate everybody that joins and tries to support the podcast. And you can do that by going where, Amanda? Where can they go? I'm going to see if you're paying attention.
Patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider.
All right. And I want to welcome Nate Merrick. Welcome, Nate. to
Hi, Nate.
supporting The Hollywood Outsider. I hope you enjoy all the content that you just had immediate access to. So thank you for that. Patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider. Now we've got 2 spoiler-free reviews, starting with Last Looks.
Well, Last Looks comes out in a limited theater release on Friday, February 4th. Aaron saw this one. It is about a disgraced ex-cop who seeks solace by moving to the woods, but his quiet life comes to an end when a private eye recruits him to investigate a murder. It's directed by Tim Kirkby, based on Howard Michael Gould's novel, and it stars Charlie Hunnam, Lucy Fry, Morena Baccarin, and Mel Gibson. So the cast is super solid.
It's amazing.
So anyone who knows you, Aaron, knows how much you love a good mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most difficult things for a mystery film to nail down, in my opinion, is balancing giving away enough information that the reveal is plausible, but not too much that you figure it out early on. Where does Last Looks land on this spectrum?
I think it does a strong enough job of keeping the mystery, but it's not a straightforward mystery. There is a mystery at play, but it does some good character things where it kind of moves around in terms of the story. So it's like mystery, character, mystery, mystery, character, you know, so it's kind of going in and weaving in and out of what the actual situation is. But yeah, and the mystery plays out, works well, and solid. Really love the reveal, especially the final moment of the reveal is kind of great. So yeah, I dug the mystery portion.
And when we say Mel Gibson is in a movie, everyone shakes their head or cringes.
I don't shake my head. I don't shake my head. Hate him all you want. You know what? I know he's got his issues personally, but I love watching the guy on screen.
Well, he looks pretty damn awesome in this role as the actor who is being accused of murdering his wife and yet is too much of a drunk to even know if he did it or not. Are we seeing the revival of Gibson's career between Fat Man and this? Do you think?
I mean, I think he's doing everything he can to be revitalized. And he was really good in Daddy's Home too? Is that the one with...
Yeah, he was in that one as well.
Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mel Gibson's very, very good here. He plays an actor, an over-the-top actor, who is a very, very famous TV actor, but he's also just a obliterated drunk at all times. And he legitimately can't remember, or we don't know. We think he might legitimately not remember the night his wife was murdered because he was just blackout drunk. He's always blackout drunk. But the part of the mystery is that true? Or is that an act? Because he's a great actor. And he actually has a British accent.
It's so amazing. I watched the trailer. I love it.
It's kind of amazing because when he first starts doing it in the movie, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Because I've heard Mel Gibson my whole life. And I know for a fact he's Australian. But he really has very little of that accent even. And now he's doing British, but when he's actually on the TV show acting, it's kind of like a Southern drawl. And I'm like, you're really good at most of this. I had no idea, but go Mel Gibson. Yeah. So I thought his performance was very lively, very fun, kind of sad in some aspects because as you get to know the character and kind of what his challenges are. But yeah, it's good.
Okay. So we've covered the script and we've covered our questionable actor for some, but looking at the cast list, there are a lot of really cool cameos. Did anyone in particular stand out for you?
Morena Baccarin is more of an extended cameo, I would say. Okay. Yeah, she's not, but Clancy Brown's in this. He's great. Robin Givens pops up and she's actually pretty good. She's just, it's just been so long since I saw her in anything. So, I mean, the cast is stacked, but the movie, it really is Charlie Hunnam's movie across the board.
Even more so than Mel Gibson. Charlie Hunnam's
Charlie Hunnam he's the star. The movie starts with he's in his trailer. He kind of left, he was a big shot cop at one point, and he left Hollywood after he kind of burned the world down. And you get his story as the movie goes. And so what he wanted to do is he wanted to go to the wilderness, essentially, live in a trailer. He's stripped down all of his excess, so no more excess in his life. He's got his life down to 100 things, and that's it. And Morena Baccarin is a woman he used to date when they were chasing cases and whatnot. And she comes back needing his help for this big case. He doesn't want to come back for it. But then, he realizes how much she needs him because of things get a little dicey, and he comes back into the fold for her. And it's actually pretty cool because he starts off about half the movie. He's kind of trying to get his mojo back because he's been out of the game for a long time. So he's really slow. He's kind of sluggish. And then little by little, he gets his confidence back as the movie comes to the forefront as the mystery comes to the forefront. And then you get the Charlie Hunnam, from all of his, kind of badass, cool ass roles. And you get him for a good portion of the movie too. So it's a good character piece. It really gives him room to grow, which was nice. And by the end, he almost looked like Brad Pitt. I swear to God. At times I'm like, is that Brad Pitt? Did they do another cameo? And nobody told me. But yeah.
What a handsome compliment.
He's a good looking dude.
He is. So if the full price of admission to see Last Looks were $10, what would you pay for it?
$6.50. It's a fun little murder mystery that really kind of plays off Hollywood and how they just love to stroke egos and how that can be a problem in many respects and how the business works and some of those things. And the mystery portion, it really reminded me of, I don't know why, but there was a Kevin Kline movie a long, long time ago called The January Man that nobody saw. And for whatever reason, I just love that mystery aspect and how Kevin Kline played the role. And this kind of reminds me a lot of that. So if you even are one of the 8 people that saw that movie, you might be really interested in this movie too.
Awesome.
Now, the other one that Troy and Amanda saw, and I've seen parts of, but I haven't seen the whole thing. The woman in the house across the street from the girl in the window.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Troy, take it away.
Yes, this is awesome detective noir called Veronica. No, it's not. But it does star Kristen Bell. And Kristen Bell does do some detective work. And her name is Anna, not to be confused with her Frozen character by any stretch of the imagination. But this just kind of tells you what kind of craziness this is all about, because it centers around her, where every day is basically the same. She sits in her chair, looking out her window, drinking her giant glass of wine that holds one entire bottle in the glass. And she just basically watches life go by without her because she's mourning the loss of her daughter. But when a handsome neighbor moves in across the street, Anna starts to see a light at the end of the tunnel until she witnesses a murder inside of the house. Or did she? So, as we said, it stars Kristen Bell. And I have to say, Amanda, like, what intrigued me about this show, first off, was the trailer. The trailer looked like it was complete satire from like The Woman in the Window or The Girl in the Window. It's like totally trying to rip off of something else. And I was like, Kristen Bell, detective work, sold, right? And then you watch the first episode and you go, is this the same thing as the trailer? Did you get that same kind of vibe the first couple episodes?
So I didn't watch the trailer. All I needed to know was Kristen Bell was in it and I was going to give it a shot. And it's on Netflix, so, easy peasy. So I watched the first episode and I'm like, oh, this is intriguing. I even went back. There's the very, very beginning. There's like a flash montage of memories. And so I went back to like look through it before I started the next episode. Like, ooh, I want to get the details. What was going on here so I can plan out, what happens in this mystery. And the mystery is still very real. It still exists. It's just there's all of these satirical moments along the way. And I got to the second episode, and I think it was probably like a quarter or halfway into it. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is not 100% serious as a mystery. This isn't like an actual murder mystery. This is a combination of them kind of doing a mockery of the subgenre, if you will. And Kristen Bell just 100% delivers on it and makes you feel like you're in the best of both worlds.
Who do you think from the cast was the most entertaining to watch in that juxtaposition between Kristen Bell doing this mockery of these genres, the whodunits or what have you? Like, who do you think played the best off of her as the thing progressed?
I really enjoyed her relationship with or encounter with Rex, who's played by Benjamin Levy Aguilar.
Now be careful, no spoilers, because I don't.
No, it's just there's just an encounter between the characters, and I just I don't know. It really just shook me. There were a couple moments where I was like, I I was watching one of the last couple episodes or whatever, because there's only like 4, right? So
8.
I was watching.
There's 8 episodes.
Oh, okay.
8 total.
Well, geez, it felt like it was only 4 hours for me.
Did you finish it? Maybe you didn't finish it yet. You don't even know. You just
No, I finished the whole thing.
It was 4 hours because they followed the Cobra Kai model, and it was only
like
like 25 minutes per episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there watching like the last half of the show in bed, and there's a moment with her and Rex, and some things are said, and you know, the whole scene is just wild. I literally jumped out of my position in bed and started yelping, and like, I don't know, I don't want to say too much, but I was hollering. It's basically what happened. I just really enjoyed their chemistry and as actors off of each other. It felt very natural.
So part of the show is based around, I don't want to call it mental illness, but she is in some kind of a depression funk because of the loss of her daughter. And so she's turned to pills, she's turned to the wine, she's, you know, combining the two. Did you find at any point during the course of the show that you really didn't know what was real and what wasn't real? And were you able to ascertain what was real, and was any of it real? Is what I still came away with at the end of this thing.
Yeah, that's a really good question. We can't delve into on this podcast.
Please don't. I'm halfway through it. Please don't.
No, we're not going to spoil anything. It's just, it's done in such a great way that it makes you continuously question yourself and your thoughts. You'll have one, and then something will happen, and you'll think, you know, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about being wrong. And it's a nice movement, because while I'm enjoying some of the comedic aspects of the show because it's so satirical, and I feel like you only get that satire if you've seen some of these other films. Otherwise, you're really out of the loop on it. Not to sidetrack, but I had a friend who watched it, and she's like, I hated that show or whatever. And I was like, you also don't watch any movies, period. You just decided to give this a go, so you're not going to understand half of it.
And when it came down to the reveal, were you excited? Were you shocked? Were you like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened?
So this is bizarre. I'm normally not the best at predicting what happens, but for some reason, my brain is super weird, and I started to figure it out, and I was right. And I was shocked at both how the reveal happened and the fact that I was right, because I just didn't, I don't know. All of it was very unexpected of like how these events turned. And I don't know. There's so much that I feel like can be left to your interpretation in the final moments of the show or movie.
And I think that's the key, right?
Yeah.
It's that you walked away from it and you assume that there is a reveal, and you assume that all of this stuff went down. And yet with like the final moments of the show, I'm still wondering if any of it actually happened or if she's just laying in a psych ward somewhere.
You know, that kind of sounds like a spoiler. So
it's not a spoiler. The whole point of the show is like a lot of this is made up in her head because she's mixing pills and drink, that you just sit there and go like, did any of it ever happen? That's what I want to know.
I think what Troy's point is that this show is definitely messing with your mind and leaves the conclusion where it could be a conclusion or it could not be a conclusion. And you kind of have to interpret that on your own. So while you have an on-screen ending, there's some pieces that they intentionally don't fill in the dots on.
And I think that's what makes it a great show, because you literally walk away from it going, do I actually trust what I saw? And do I want to see a season 2? Because I need to know what happens next. Because is what happens next actually going to happen? That's the question. And I think that's what makes good TV. It was a lot of fun. And I cheered. I cheered in that last episode. I was just like, that is the craziest stuff I've ever seen on TV in that last episode.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I love that. So when, I don't know, I went back and watched the trailer after the second episode because I was like, I must have missed something, because this is very much like so much satire's in here. So I watched the trailer and I'm like, okay. And I thought maybe with her wine drinking that it was like occasional. This woman knows how to party with some wine. And the log line or the tagline for the show is when it rains, she pours. And I love that so much.
Which I didn't see until after I saw the show. And I was like, that is so clever.
It is.
Because it's so true.
Yeah.
And I totally need to have the wine opener that she used. Like just that whole like.
Everybody on the internet is like, where do I get this?
100%. That was the first thing. When she opened that first bottle of wine, I was like, damn, I need one of those. And the giant basket of corks to hold my corks for sure. Well, $10 is full price of admission. What do you get? This new Kristen Bell entry, the woman in the house across the street from the girl in the window.
I'd probably give it 7 out of 10.
I'm probably there with you. I would say 7 as well. I felt, because I saw the trailer at first, I felt like the first 2 episodes were slow. So I did watch the majority of it at 1.5 speed just to get it done with. But I did watch the final episode at normal speed because I think it would have been just that much more ridiculous at 1.5.
How do you watch TV at 1.5 speed? Like, seriously.
It's
you're
not
You're
hard.
a masochist.
They changed it's pitch shifted and everything. It's fine. There's just a lot of sitting around and like looking out the window. And it's like, I don't need to sit there for 10 minutes. Like, give me that in 5.
Well, I'm glad you soak in the ambiance. You're just like, no, I got to get to my own wine. I ain't got time for this. I ain't got time to be
exactly
sitting.
Right. My cup is empty. I need to finish the episode to go refill my cup.
Jesus. All right. Any recommendations from any of you guys on anything we haven't already talked about before?
I have to say that if you go to YouTube and just put the opening credits to Peacemaker on a loop, it'll make your day so much better.
We've already talked about this. All right. Let's go to our From the Outside In topic. Impactful TV episodes. Jay, who was our Patreon supporter, he has an option on his tier that he selected at patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider to choose a specific topic for the show for us to discuss. And we're going to do just that. We're going to take what he wanted us to talk about and we're going to kind of use that as well as kind of maneuver in our own aspects to it with a discussion on impactful TV episodes. See, Jay has selected 2 very specific Twilight Zone episodes that mean a lot to him, and he wants us to discuss those and the themes that are within, and we decided we'll each pick one specific moment of television that truly affected us to discuss as well. So we're going to start with his first Twilight Zone episode. We'll end on his last one, and then in the middle, Amanda, John, Troy, and myself all have our own picked out. So this first one is called Walking Distance, which is about the busy and stressed VP of an ad agency, Martin Sloan, who stops his car at a gas station. When asked, the attendant tells him it will take about an hour to change the oil and perform a lube job, if you know what I mean. In the meantime, Martin realizes he is 1.5 miles from Homewood, the hometown he left 25 years ago, and decides to walk there. Very soon after, he finds that he has returned to his past, where he finds his 11-year-old self and his parents. And he even manages to chase his 11-year-old self, who breaks his leg, and then he finds himself afflicted in the future, or in the current time. You know, it's like Back to the Future in that way. So it's an episode about how much simpler childhood is and how subconsciously many of us wish we could go back there. At least that's how I saw it. So how did you guys see the Twilight Zone Walking Distance, which both of these episodes are in the first season of Twilight Zone if you have Paramount Plus, by the way, if you want to watch them?
Well, when I was watching this, it just reminded me of wanting to appreciate my current life and also appreciate childhood, because I think wherever you're at, it doesn't matter what time period, you get so overwhelmed and stressed by your current situation. There's something that's affecting you, and it's never going to change. We're always going to feel stressed or overwhelmed or, some sort of varied emotion. When you're a child, you feel it just, and then you look back as an adult and you're like, gosh, I wish I could just stress about having to take a nap. I miss those days of just being told I need to take a nap and somebody brings me apple juice and a blanket and I get to take a nap. And for me, it was like a reminder that regardless of where you're at in life, you have to stop and take a pause and appreciate the good things that are happening and even the overwhelming things, because this is all part of humanity, of our experience of living here. And I don't know. Twilight Zone is always deep and it always connects with people in different ways. So I'm sure we will have different thoughts on this episode, which should be interesting. It's a good topic.
I read it as more of the follies of wishing to be able to go back and change whatever it is you wanted to change. Because one of the things that this character wanted to do was talk to his younger self and explain that the things he's going through are the best parts of his life, and in the process, and in his drive to do so, he created a situation in which he has to now deal with this bum leg that he's got because he caused this accident to his younger self. So he's dealing with the repercussions of his own actions and not being able to appreciate who he currently is, and trying to change who he is by affecting this past when he realizes that's where he is.
I looked at the environment that it was taking place in and going, I know this is a time travel episode, and as they time travel through, because it's obviously Twilight Zone, right? So it's black and white already. It's got this late 50s, early 60s kind of look to it to begin with. So when he goes back in time in this town, then you sit there and go like, well, is he back in town or is it not back in time? And when you get to the soda shop and he's like, it'll be a dime, you're like, okay, he is back in time. But he's back in time like in the 30s, and you're going like, wow, the 30s really doesn't look that much different than the 50s and 60s. And I started to think like, wow, like if you think 2022 and go back to even like 2000 or even the early or middle of the 90s or whatever, like how different society is today in that technology revolution that, like seriously, Skynet's going to kill us all at some point in time because the technology is just outpacing
God
us.
hope.
Jeez.
It's just crazy. Like, like BlackBerry was barely on the map in 2000.
BlackBerry.
Oh, the good old days.
Right?
Jeez, I remember that bad boy.
And like BlackBerry doesn't even exist anymore. Like I remember having my first like brick Nokia like in 1995. It's
and
crazy.
It's probably still put together and works and operates because that's
absolutely.
Nokia.
I think that was the biggest thing was like the simpler life in the 30s and the simpler life in the 50s and 60s compared to now. It's just like, wow, like even in the 60s, they felt stressed out compared to the 30s. Like how much more stressed out are we all as a humanity right now? It's insane.
Yeah. And he was just stressed out that ice cream cost 20 cents more.
I know.
Although
I'm all for 30-cent ice cream. Like
I would be so fat. I really, really would. I was so excited that at no point does he try to bang his mom in this one. I mean, that just felt like a nice shift from the time travel movies I'm used to. So that's cool. It was an interesting episode. I mean, I think the other episode is way more interesting to me personally.
Yeah, that one's deep.
Yeah, it felt more Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Deep.
And it's very, very deep. And we're going to get to that one in a second. But first, talk about your episodes. Amanda, you're first. What specific episode of any TV show really, really impacted you, and why did that particular episode impact you so much?
So the episode that I chose should not be a surprise to anyone. It's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Body, Season 5, Episode 16, which premiered on February 27th, 2001. This episode...
Whoa, hang on. You brought the date with you.
I brought some research.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Some
Nice
information. Job. So this episode opens basically exactly where we left off in the previous episode. In all of the Buffy episodes, you have this previously on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and then you get the recap and you get the music and you get all the fun stuff. You don't get that. So at the very end of the previous episode from The Body, Buffy comes home to find her mom on the couch, presumably dead. And we open this episode with her then trying to go through the process of seeing if she's alive, seeing if she's dead, getting the paramedics, and the entire experience of losing someone. It is, I can't say 100% quiet in terms of no score or music, but I don't recall any scenes where that happens. It is a very emotionally impactful episode. And I think for me, when I was watching that, already having lost, somebody in my family at that time, and having Buffy be the one woman in the entire world who's able to save just about anyone from just about anything and has survived herself from the most unimaginable experiences. And now she's having to go through such a human loss that cannot, I mean, the deepest of losses when you lose a parent. And for her basically her only parent, her dad's not really in the picture. And seeing this superhero basically feel so helpless and so distraught and wrecked, it just really struck home about the reality of death, and to take us through not just, you know, what happened to her. And, you know, they didn't go down that hole. It was about what happens in those intimate moments following finding someone you love dead. And funny story, not funny, I shouldn't say that. That's a very bad word to use for this. Interesting story, I guess. I had a very similar experience to this episode. Not that I was the one who found the body, but I was with my nan, my grandmother on my mom's side, and we were going over to her mom's house. And so I called her Aunt Elaine. And we were going over to her house. They always had horses and a bunch of animals, and family was always there. And it was always a lot of fun to go there. And we just were going to show up. So we go over there and we show up, and her body is just there dead. And the family is all just there, and we're all just quietly looking and crying and, you know, waiting for paramedics in the corner. Like, we got there at the worst possible time. And I could relate to this experience 100%. And to this day, that quietness, that uncomfortable silence, and those moments with people where you don't know what to say to each other, you don't know how to be with each other because you're just so numb and shaken. It was a very, very real representation, and it came out of nowhere in the show. We see death all the time in this show, in Buffy, but we don't see human death caused by human causes. It's always at the hands of some sort of supernatural evil. And so it was a huge thing to have her mom die in this manner and to take us back to reality, I guess.
Yeah, it's a very deep episode, and one of those rare ones where you're watching it and it's just kind of, you know, for a lot of times when I would talk to people about Buffy, you should watch Buffy. And, oh, that's like that kids show. That's like that teen show. Whoopity. About vampires? Come on. I mean, they had a lot of really deep themes on it. Turns out maybe because they had a monster behind the scenes, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, don't bring that up.
But no, it's a very, very deep, meaningful episode, and I love how they used that backdrop to kind of talk and explore death and loss and the loss of a parent and, you know, a lot of other things that normally television, you know, does a little bit too melodramatically. I mean, I just felt like it was, for a show that was about vampires and demons and monsters and stuff, like that was so genuine and honest in so many respects, which I thought was pretty rare for TV to move me in that way, because usually I'm like, wow, this is like Dallas. And
they focused on those intimate small details, like when she finds her mom and her skirt is a little hiked up and she pulls it down.
Pulls it down out of respect.
And it's just, oh my God, it's so heartbreaking to just watch something like that, because you can connect and resonate with her character on so many different levels. And when she's talking to the paramedics, she corrects them. They say something about, is the body cold? And she said, no, my mom is cold. And she's, you know, that's just, I don't know, that really, really hit me hard when I was watching every time I watched that episode, when she changes the language to my mom, because you're still so attached. Yeah, I don't know what anybody believes in here, but if you believe that your soul goes on and it is no longer with that body, then this is just like a carcass of who you used to know. And yet we see it still as my mom or, you know, my dad or whoever it is. It's just, I don't know, makes you think too.
I very much hope it goes on because I want to haunt some people.
I got a list and I'm checking it twice.
I guarantee you, man. You may be listening to this going, oh shit. Because if I've got a path, I'm paying a visit to a few people.
Well, I think the one thing about the body that's really great too is just the use of music in that episode specifically, because there's different types of sound that are used, and one of them is called a diegetic sound, And the reason why they use diegetic sound only in this entire episode is because diegetic sound comforts you. And so as you're going through this experience where they actually have, I believe it was in the DVD commentary that Josh said that they used the Christmas flashback because they didn't want the credits of like, Buffy and Willow and, directed by, written by, doesn't want those credits popping up over the part where Buffy finds her mom. And so that's why they did the Christmas flashback to start the episode, was to get the credits out of the way. So then you come in and you see what's actually going on. And I think it's a real good understanding of like emotion and death and life from death. And it's just, it's really powerful.
I remember when I first watched that episode, especially when you reminded me about the whole, like lowering her skirt just ever so gently just to protect her modesty, even in death. It was one of those things to me that they read as a, what did something bad happen to her kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they lean further into the idea of it was just a natural death. No matter what happened, it was just a natural death. But I really loved how they treated Judith in death in this episode, because they treated her mom with a lot of reverence and care, and as opposed to her mom being just any other person dying, it was somebody who was more important to the show, and they treated her with that kind of respect.
Did you mean Joyce?
Yeah, Joyce.
Judith, same difference.
Put it both ways. But the addition to that is that, it kind of put into how we all need to we need to have someone to blame. We need to have a face when someone we care about dies, because her whole life as a slayer, people get hurt all the time. And so she really, really, I think subconsciously just wanted it to be one of her enemies that did this. So she has someone to avenge, she has someone to seek her vengeance on. And it's not that. It's just your mom died. It was her time, and she has to deal with that. And that's something that, even though it's ridiculous and the show is a ridiculous concept in many ways, it's a truth that we all have to face. Where someone close to us dies, we want to blame someone. We want to have someone we have to put a face to that. And it's difficult when you can't do that. I mean, it's something that's very hard to deal with when you can't put a face to it and you can't put blame somewhere else,
And I think a lot of times if you can't put blame somewhere else, a lot of times people will internalize that and put the blame on themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
My fault.
And that makes it harder.
Absolutely. All right, John, what's your episode?
My episode is from one of the greatest TV shows of all time, and that would be M.A.S.H. The episode name is Absentia Henry. This is the episode that starts with finding out that the first head of the camp for the 4077, Henry Blake, has actually been discharged from the military, and he can go home. And you spend the majority of the episode with his goodbyes and everyone playing jokes like they usually do, and the laughs like usually happen. But you see a man who's also excited to go home to his normal family practice, being a doctor, having, his family, his wife and kids, and being able to go to a country club to play golf and stuff like that. And he's reflecting on what's going to be the next chapter of his life after spending so much time in abject hell during this war. Also, you're seeing a lot of his relationship with Radar. Radar was following around Henry and kind of turned Henry into a surrogate father, which one of the things you don't find out is like Radar's dad died, who was an older dad when he had him, died when Radar was 8, right in the middle of playing peekaboo, where Radar closes his eyes and opens them back up, and his dad's dead in front of them.
That's dark.
It's a really dark story, but you find out these sorts of things where this layers of these characters to what was at the time considered kind of a lot of people kind of figured it as a sitcom kind of comedy show. But you see a lot of these heavier layers being added to it. Henry Blake gets on the helicopter. He takes off. Everyone comes out and does a parade to say goodbye. And the next thing you see in the scene is everyone's in the operating room taking care of patients, and Radar comes in to let everyone know that Henry Blake's helicopter had gone down over the Sea of Japan. He was shot down and presumed dead. Oh. And to me, this is a really important episode as far as growing up when I watched this. It was one of those first times where I watched something and a character that I cared about, because I loved M.A.S.H growing up, go figure, but a character I cared about, they killed him. And I was like, you killed him. How do you do that? This is TV. You're not supposed to kill my characters. And in my research, I find out that the reaction to this episode was very much the same way. People were upset that you have a comedy show and you killed somebody off who was part of the comedy show, and it was pretty cheap, or a lot of different reactions. But it's one of the episodes that I think about the most when I think about this, and it just means a lot to me.
I remember that was kind of an uproar when that happened, because it was I'm trying to remember. There was a few seasons in, right? If I remember right, it was like 3 or 4.
I think it was 4 or 5
years in. And obviously I was a wee baby if I was even whenever this happened. So I mean, obviously I don't have a recollection, but I remember talking to my mom about it years later when M.A.S.H went off the air, and she was talking about, because I couldn't understand why this thing was so popular. I mean, I'd seen it, I liked it, but everybody in the whole wide world was going to watch the finale, right? And she was talking about how, this is one of the only shows she ever saw where they killed a major character and you just had to deal with it, because it just didn't happen in TV. TV was very, very safe. Like, apparently, like we're trying to get back to, apparently it was very, very safe.
Right.
And that your characters were all safe if you loved them. I mean, the only people that ever got killed were bad guys. I mean, that was a big portion of television, because television was supposed to be that you come home, you sit on the couch with your family, you feel comfy. You only have 3 options to watch every single night. And, so it was a huge deal. And, now it's kind of the norm, where if you don't kill a major character at some point in your show, you're kind of seen as weak. You know what I mean? So it's amazing to me how that has changed in so many respects over the years.
Well, and it's also just what a commanding officer does for, your upbringing, your growth, your development, because I think the biggest thing I remember from this episode is when Radar salutes him, right? And he just holds the salute, and it's like the first time that Henry actually acknowledges him as a military person, right? As a leader, as a member of the group. And then just to have Radar be the one that then comes in and does the announcement at the end, it's just like, it reminds me of 18th and Potomac from The West Wing season 2, when you find out that Mrs. Lanigan, dies in the car crash. And it's just like, that was like right at the end of the episode. And it had that same kind of feel where it's just like, I can't believe that just happened. Right. Cause you're at the end of the episode and it's like the last 2 seconds of the episode. And you're just like, wait, what? And then you sit in those feelings back then, for a week, right? It's not like you just go to the next episode and see what happens. So just sit with that and go well, how's that going to affect my life? What if that would happen to me? What if that happened to my parents? What if that happened to my friend? I mean, that's a lot of pain to sit with for a week, even though it is just a TV show, but it makes you wonder.
Good points. It's a good pull too, because I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people don't reflect on the older shows that really paved the way for so many shows that are around today. And M.A.S.H is, I think, one of the most popular shows of all time. And the finale, I believe, still is the most popular episode of TV of all time.
Yeah, in 2005, TV Land included this episode as one of the top 100 most unexpected moments in television history, and that this was number 15 in that. And in 1997, TV Guide included it as the episode of the 100 greatest episodes of all time, and this ranked number 20. And then you got a couple, over the years, you've got it popping up every now and again as part of pop culture. Family Guy did a spoof of it. It showed up in a book. Cher did something with it. Yeah, it's been showing up a lot of different places.
Excellent. All right, Troy, batter up. What's your impactful TV episode?
Mine, I'm going to put a spoiler alert out there, because if you haven't seen The Leftovers on HBO, I'm going to be discussing the Book of Nora, which is the series finale to The Leftovers. So if you don't want to know how The Leftovers ends, go ahead and skip ahead, 5 minutes or so.
Now,
Okay.
What's very important is in 5 minutes and 45 seconds, I want to repeat whatever the ending of the show is. Just so that they skipped ahead 5 minutes and like, all right, I'm good. Then you're like, and I can't believe that some bitch died. Oh, man. That's what I want to do.
Okay, so for those that don't know what The Leftovers is about, a little setup. The Leftovers explores what happens to humanity when 2% of the population all of a sudden one day disappears. It starts on the 3rd anniversary of the disappearance and introduces us to our main character, Kevin Garvey. Throughout the 3 seasons, we intertwine Kevin's grief with that of a bunch of supporting characters, one of them being Nora, who's played by Carrie Coon, who lost her entire family. She seems at the start to be kind of a small part, but as her and Kevin's relationship grows, the focus kind of shifts more towards Nora than Kevin. And the finale actually takes place decades after Kevin and Nora's codependent relationship goes up in flames, literally in a hotel fire that the two of them actually caused. That happened midway through season 3. So in the finale, in the Book of Nora, Nora is convinced that a machine can send her to the other side where the 2% of the population went. Of course, we don't get to see what happens to Nora after she enters the machine, just that she is alive some 20 years later, living in Australia, which is where Kevin actually shows up on her front doorstep to meet her. Once Kevin convinces her to have a conversation, they actually sit down and Carrie Coon delivers a story about what happens after entering the machine. A story about seeing the other side, seeing her family, how nothing worked, how planes existed, but there was nobody there to fly them, vegetation overtaking everything because there's literally only 2% of the world alive on the other side because the other 98% of the world disappeared. Little perspective for you. But over there, everyone seemed happy and joyous and found a way to live. Where on Nora and Kevin's side, where the 98% were, everyone wallowed in grief. She didn't fit in over there, so she found the machine creator, also went over and asked him to build a machine to send her back to our side. The key moment in this story comes when Kevin says, "I believe you. I believe you because you're here." And they smile at each other, and the camera pans out away from them out the window and out of the house as doves literally return to the house. And not just one dove, but like multiple doves all at once. And for anybody that has any kind of Bible history understands, like the dove is a sign of rebirth, new life after the flood, and also a sign of peace. So this is the first time Kevin and Nora have found peace in the entire journey that they shared with each other.
So it's the afterlife.
Sort of. The reason why the episode is impactful is because, one, it's the first time I ever saw a supporting character in the pilot become the main focus of the final episode, and really the entire 3rd season is about her.
That's interesting.
Rather than about Kevin.
Yeah, that's interesting.
2, it truly showcases perspective and how we should be open to the possibility of anything. At one point in the episode, the townsfolk actually put beads on a goat and sent it away, like in the Old Testament when they put the goat out into the wilderness. Except that Nora, when she's on her bicycle route in Australia, she actually finds the goat trapped in barbed wire because of the necklaces, and she removes the necklaces and frees the goat. So to some people, that might be a bad thing because the goat was supposed to take away my sins. To some other people, I'm just saving a goat, and goats should be alive. So it's just another thing that kind of like puts in your head and go like, I should really look at things in 2 different ways. The real big thing, though, is that it left us as the audience wondering, did she actually cross over? Was this story true? Or did she make the whole thing up? My theory after watching the episode was that the 2% on the other side are the ones that were actually alive, and the 98% were in some kind of purgatory. It is by Damon Lindelof, so you can see the correlation there. Mm-hmm. And hence, because they were in purgatory, it's why they were never happy, and why during the course of the show, Kevin could die and come back to life multiple times. But you have to believe Nora is truthful in the tale for that answer to work. And in the end, I think the simplest answer is probably true. I don't think it actually happened. I don't think Nora ever did cross over. It's just a story she told herself so she could be able to move on. And the impactful thing is that Kevin believes her because he is just so glad that she's safe and okay and present with him in this reality right now. Going back to the goat, it also points out symbolism because I view a lot of my life as the universe sending signs because of this episode. Since seeing this episode the other night, a bunch of my friends were actually watching This Is Us. It's the final season. So we're having watch parties over at my house. And we all had a friend that was actually named Jack that passed away on April 1st of 2021. Very suddenly, massive heart attack, we think. In the episode specifically, Rebecca is the widow of the character named Jack, and she's in a car with Miguel, her current husband, and her brother Nicky, Jack's brother, and they're driving in a car, and Rebecca says, "This is what Jack would have wanted, us right here, just like this." And I'm just like, man, how do you not have that 2x4 just smack you across the face? Because that's exactly how Jack would have wanted all of us watching the show together, all of his friends still bonding, a year after his death, and just being together because he brought us all together in that moment. And I think that's why this episode is just so powerful, because you just sit there and go, whether we're in each other's paths and journeys now, or whether we're in each other's paths and journeys 20 years from now, it's the time we spend together. And I think that it really makes you appreciate life a little bit more, because if my theory is true, where these 98% that are so miserable and so full of grief this entire time, because when you think about Jack, when he died on April 1st, or anybody that dies for that matter, like, we grieve, but we also move on, right? We can get over it in a way, not to say you'll ever get over it, but like you understand, you move on, you smile, you start to laugh again, and you start to, live life again. But what happens when people die? Like, you're just ripped out of your existence instantaneously. And wouldn't you just be pissed off at the world and just angry and like,
Oh, it's kind of like the flip side of death, right?
Yeah. And I think this show really showcased that flip side of death. That's why it's so morbid and so, why am I watching this and suffering this entire time, especially in that first season, is because you're literally witnessing what it would be like to be dead. And I think that that's like super impactful, just to be like, oh, even though these people are potentially dead and this other afterlife could potentially exist, or maybe it is the real life, the fact that she crosses over and wants to come back because she doesn't belong there, I think is really interesting to like just sit back and go, man, like, I appreciate everything that much more that I have now, because I don't know what it's going to be like on the other side. And I appreciate the people I'm with, because, whether I'm right, whether I'm wrong, it doesn't matter. Like, right now, it just matters that you're here. And that's all that matters to me.
That was very deep, Troy.
Yeah.
Although I think it does matter if you're right. I've known you long enough. I think there's it matters a little
small
bit.
amount.
I tried to read up on this so that I can actually have something intelligent to say about this. And I tried to read it 3 times today. And then I sat here and listened to you talk about it. And all I know is that I ain't watching this show.
It is. I mean, I had a hard time with it, but I will say, I mean, I know a lot of people love this show. A lot of people rave about it. Even if it wasn't for me, I know many people that just love it. Troy does, Scott does. It's one of those, I think this is where it just comes back to my earlier opinion, where I can't stand when art plays it safe, because sometimes you need to have those, even if it's not for everybody, you need to have those expressions where it takes a chance, it does something different, it hits you in the face with something you don't want to think about or don't want to talk about, so you can confront your own feeling of it. And, here in this country especially, we really, really obsess with death. We are so obsessed with when someone passes away, we can let that take over our whole existence. And I do think it's interesting that they looked at the flip side of that, where if there is an afterlife and you're ripped out of your existence, is it really as magical as you think it might be? I mean,
right.
That there's definitely some downside to that. Yeah, maybe you'll be reunited with someone you lost or something at some point, but you'll also be ripped away from those that you were with. I mean, that's an interesting, really dynamic kind of philosophical way to look at it. I can respect that. Just wish they had more jokes in that first season. I would have stayed with it longer.
Man, that first season is hard. It is hard.
But I do. I mean, now I didn't know that. Obviously, I didn't get past the first season. But the idea of a supporting character becoming the lead by the 3rd season, I think is, and not just because of fan service, right? It's not just because everybody loved that character. It's because the story was always building to that, right? I mean, so it was a logical progression. It wasn't anything that was just jammed in for fan service kind of thing.
Brett Goldstein, there's still hope for you.
Oh, geez. I can't wait for
good Lord
Roy Kentso to take over at some point. Okay.
I'd be fine with the spinoff.
Well, my impactful episode of television is Moonlightings. I Am Curious. Now, if you never watched Moonlighting, shame on you. I developed half my personality from Moonlighting, the other half from Night Court. So, I mean, those two shows are very pivotal to my very existence. If you don't like either one of them, you just don't like me, and that means I don't like you. So just pretend you're a fan. But Moonlighting is a show that I absolutely adored. And, you know, most of that was attributable to Bruce Willis as David Addison. It's a character I just absolutely loved. I loved how immature he was, how charismatic he was, how he could walk in a room and like the entire room just lit up. And his chemistry with Sybil Shepherd, Maddie Hayes, was phenomenal. I mean, even though it's very well known the two actors didn't like each other at all, they had just a sizzling chemistry. I mean, whenever they were on screen, you felt the sexual tension, you felt just everything about a couple on TV that make people ship them, what they call shipping now, where you see two characters and you just have to get them together, right? Like, that's always the thing. They have to get together.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everybody wanted with those two characters. David and Maddie have to get together. And it built up, and I think it was season 3, if I remember right, where I Am Curious came out. And it built, or maybe it was the end of season 2, I'm sorry. And
season 3, episode 14.
Was it for 3? Okay. So build up to this moment. All the fans, everybody I knew that watched the show wanted them to get together. They have sex in this episode. And it's hot. It's steamy. It's the highest rated episode, I believe, of the show. And it was the moment that impacted me so deeply because it taught me, stop wanting things. Stop wanting things out of your entertainment. Let the creators tell you their story. Let the storytellers tell their story. Because after that moment, everything about that show that was good stopped. Everything. Everybody I know and I knew a lot of people that watch this show. I watched it every single time, every week it came out with religion. I never missed it. My friend Dennis even watched it with me, and he hates television, but he loved that show he would watch it with me. And it just became unwatchable after that because, sure, I mean, there were some conflicts behind the scenes, but also because they were just giving fans what they wanted to juice the ratings, to kind of sell the show, which didn't really need the extra bump by that point. It was very popular. And it ruined the fact that what we loved about those characters was that they didn't sleep together, that there was that chemistry, that there was that will they, won't they, are they ever gonna, it didn't have that. And, other shows have made that mistake as well. X-Files is one that did it again. I mean, so many other shows have done that where fans have been begging for the two to get together, and then they put the characters together and it kind of ruins the show. Or they do something that fans have to have happen in a movie series or a TV series, and it kind of ruins things because they're just trying to make fans happy. So the reason it impacted me so much was it was really the first time I realized, let the creators tell their story, let the storytellers tell their story, stop putting what you want into it. And we've evolved into a society where people put demands on what they want. Restore the Snyderverse, and whatever it is, they have all these things that they have to have, and they're going to have hashtags, and they're going to tweet the hell out of it. And they, I can't tell you how many times a week I see an article that says fans demand that Disney does this, or Warner Brothers does this, or Sony does this. Shut up. Fans, it just drives me nuts. You know what? Unless you happen to be a storyteller, I don't care what your demands are. And this was the first time I fully understood why that's the case. Because they don't write stories. It's fan fiction. It's not the same as a really well-crafted story. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some fan fiction is pretty awesome. But, a lot of it is garbage too. And sometimes you just got to let what you want go and see what story they're going to tell. Can you imagine if they changed Breaking Bad because of what fans wanted?
Oh, sure.
Or if they changed some of the greatest television shows out there because of what fans wanted. I mean, sometimes you just got to let your desires go and just accept whatever it is.
So is it your understanding then that leading up to that episode, they were not really going to give into this, and it was just going to
No, everybody knew they were going to hump that episode. I mean, they promoted the hell out of it.
No. I'm saying like prior to them writing the episode, like, do you feel like you feel strongly that they did this as a response to fans?
Yes, very much so. The show was, and don't get me wrong, there was always chemistry there. It was always a romantic.
Yeah, they had they were like Castle and what's her face, Beckett, where there was that tension there.
Much better. Much better.
Yeah. No, I love Moonlighting. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and look at Castle. I mean, they ended up getting married or something.
Yep, same thing.
Yeah. It doesn't always make the show better. It really rarely does. Very rarely does that make the show better, because what people seem to forget, and what I have been guilty of forgetting myself, is that you thrive off that chemistry of will they or won't they. And once they do, that isn't there anymore. It's done. Like, it never comes back. You know, I mean, I guess you could Friends it, where we were on a break and then you come back and you could do that, but it just doesn't work in dramas the way it does on sitcoms.
And I think it's also a matter of, is that the centerpiece of your drama and your story, is that tension? Because if it's just an added bonus that happens in the background, it wouldn't be as detrimental if it happens. But for something like Moonlighting and Castle, it is, whereas something like Lucifer has so much else going on that your characters getting together doesn't ruin the show. And that's super, super rare.
The thing is, if they do it and they do it too soon, which that was way too soon in that show, because it was only, it was third season, sorry. That's very, very, that's so early in a show's run. It's so early. And everything they did after that just proved that they did not have a real plan for how they were going to handle it. Because they just, there was a baby, and then is it this guy's baby or that guy's baby? And it was just such a ridiculous show at that point. From that point forward, it was very hard to watch. It was very, very hard to watch, and kind of crushed me in a way, because like that show was my life for several years.
And also, once you give people what they want, what's going to entice them to stick around? Which is why you saw that huge decline in their viewers. It's just like, okay, we've been waiting for this moment, and it's not the end of the show. It's not near the end of the show. You plan on continuing it, but you've not done anything to really keep us interested. And so then they went the soap opera route.
And it crushed it. And I know, looking back, a lot of people will point to, well, Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis didn't get along. Bruce Willis had a burgeoning film career. Yeah, all that stuff is also true. But this ruined the show. This ruined the show we saw on screen. So
that's unfortunate.
That one really, really hit me. Okay, here's the last one. This is that other Twilight Zone episode that Jay wanted us to talk about. A Stop at Willoughby, also in the first season. Tired of his miserable job and wife, a businessman starts dreaming on the train each night about an old, idyllic town called Willoughby. Soon he has to know whether the town is real, and fancies the thought of seeking refuge there, of just packing it all up and moving his life to Willoughby. He ends up getting off the train at Willoughby right after he leaves his job and his wife leaves him, which is really his mind saying goodbye to the world, as he ends up killing himself by jumping off of the train. It's a really, really tragic ending, and I also think a very smart play on mental health, especially for its time. This was one of those Twilight Zone episodes that I'm sure I've seen, because I've seen all of them, but I didn't remember this one that well. But as I watched it and I got to the ending, it really hit me in the gut. Like, that's deep. That's really harsh. So what did you guys think about this one?
Yeah, I remember contrasting it because I watched this one second from the first one. And I was just kind of like, the first one felt like it flowed more. This one didn't seem like as exciting initially, because when you get that first, instance of Willoughby, and then you realize that he's just dreaming the thing rather than it actually being something, you're like, oh, well, this is just all in his head. Well, this is going to be a great episode. And then as he goes through and you realize like some of the technical aspects of the actual production with the, where he's sitting and the blinds versus the wood shutters and the superimposing of the boss yelling at him, push, 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 in the mirror, and then he smashes the mirror because he's so frustrated.
Yeah.
You realize that the Willoughby part of it isn't really what's going on. It's really his, existence, and he's got these stomach cramps, and he's just not feeling like himself, and he's just getting super, super stressed out. That's really the thing that's the most important. Like you said, it's a real journey into mental health and what we can actually put up with before we finally crack. And in this case, he just wants that simpler life. And when he does finally get off the train, literally, and falls to his death, it's just kind of like, whoa, like that just came out of nowhere. And then you get the nice little nod to Twilight Zone does, right? Where the funeral home hearse is the funeral home of Willoughby and Sons. And you're just like, oh, well, I guess he ended up in Willoughby after all.
And the really, really sad part is if once the episode's over, you realize the whole episode, he's a guy just crying for help. Like he really is just begging for help through the entire episode for anyone to please hear him. He can't do this anymore. He's overwhelmed with his job. He's overwhelmed with his marriage, and nobody cares enough about him to really just put their own needs from his life aside to listen.
Not even his assistant who's supposed to work for him.
Yeah. Yep.
She's all like, the boss is calling. The boss is calling. What are you doing? The boss is calling.
And this poor guy, I mean, just, wow. Once you finish it, it really hit me like just a punch in the gut.
Well, and your dreams are supposed to be, supposedly, your subconscious kind of working through things. And so for him to be dreaming about death, essentially not realizing it, it was just like, I'm dreaming about being in a peaceful, better place. And that peaceful, better place is on the other side, 6 feet under. And that's just an incredibly dark concept to bring forward. But at the same time, to what Aaron and Troy are talking about, I mean, all the signs were there. Everything was there. And the physical ailments showed from his mental health deteriorating. And he didn't have any support or help or protection. And so when the time came, he was just like, I want to be somewhere where I don't hurt anymore. And that's the really, really sad, unfortunate part of suicide is like when you have those thoughts and feelings, all you can think about is just not feeling that anymore.
All I want to do is
zoom in your boom boom.
Yeah, that too. I just want to talk to Jay. Just like, me and Jay here for a minute, or talk at Jay, whatever you want to do. Are you okay?
Yeah, these are 2 very deep episodes.
These are 2, very deep episodes. And at the end of the second one, I was practically in my own little existential crisis, wondering if I should get rid of the aforementioned Jeep that I'm in love with for a different kind of convertible and just drive off the edge of a cliff or something. Or
okay, please don't.
Or have a real nice midlife crisis and just have the world's best time. I don't know. I go get a wife a third my age or half my age. I don't know what the math is because I was never really good at it. Maybe 2 wives that are a third my age will make one that's the right age for me.
That's not how math works, but
I'm pretty sure that sounds illegal a lot. I don't know.
Or he's just really old.
I mean,
I'll serve you chocolate soda with 3 scoops.
I don't know how close to Virginia you are, but
I'm pretty close.
There you go.
So I just want to say, if you need a hug, Jay, we're here.
And he does mean that in sincerity. Like, if, truly we do.
Can you hug from 6 feet away? Because that's the only way that's going to happen.
Well, 3 of us are here. John, you can't get a hold of because he lives up on the top of a mountain.
That's true.
Right. I'm in my own little
snow globe.
Fortress of solitude.
Which is why he's throwing hugs out, because he knows we'll have to give them.
Right.
COVID hugs.
You guys get to do all the touchy stuff. I just get to talk
about
it.
John wants the touchy stuff.
Yeah.
He's living vicariously through us.
It sounds safe.
Twilight Zone was always a great bearer of conversation set pieces. They had so many episodes that are so smart and didn't play it too safe, where they could actually create very engaging topics over and over. Eye of the Beholder is still one of my favorite episodes of television ever. If you've never seen it, you should look that up because it's literally one of my favorite. It really looks at beauty and how jacked up perception is. It's just it's a fantastic episode. So good picks. And you want to hear what some of the listeners' picks? Of course you do. So I'm going to give you the top 5. We took a poll and there's like 1,000 freaking episodes there. So I've got the top 5 of those that were picked. And number 5 was a tie between Breaking Bad, Ozymandias. These are the most impactful TV episodes for people. Breaking Bad, Ozymandias. which is the one where, you know, he does his brother-in-law dirty, really, and things go to chaos. Tied with the X-Files Home, which is the Creeper People. And that one gets me every time I watch it, man. That one hit. I remember watching that. And that was I think it's the only episode of X-Files that they banned from replaying on actual primetime television.
Really?
It's true. True story. Yep.
Wow.
And I don't think it was that, but it was just very unsettling. It was just very unnerving. And, you know, and I loved X-Files so much, people at work bought me a creeper. So I don't know what that says about me. But
That's
anyway.
awesome.
Number 4 is Lost, The Constant. Troy, you speak to that. Why does that belong on the list?
I mean, to this day, how many times have we seen Lost, John? Like more than we can count at this point.
Enough.
That
like 2 or 3.
Every time that episode plays, like total feels every time.
Can you explain the episode? Because it feels very vague.
Succinctly,
how do we explain this?
It's back and forth in time where a guy he's on the island and he's thinking about his past life, and it's just the love of his life.
Going back and forth.
The love
has been going back and forth, but he has to there's one specific thing, like if he doesn't get his girlfriend to call him in the future, which is many, 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 many years from when he actually talks to her about it, he'll literally die. Yeah. And then when the phone call happens, you're just, oh my God, she called. She remembered.
Yeah, it was actually pretty sweet.
That's awesome. Yeah,
that's before that show went off the rails.
You're so bogus.
He can't help yourself,
I just can't stop.
It was at the start of going off the rails because 4, 5, and 6 were written together.
There you go. Number 3, Game of Thrones, The Reigns of Castamere, which is the Red Wedding episode.
Why do I always forget that it's not actually called the Red Wedding.
Yeah, everybody calls it that, right? I mean,
yeah.
I can't tell you how many times where I've been, let's watch the Red Wedding episode, and I got to look it up. What the hell is the name of that stupid thing? It's not Red Wedding. It should be. Why not just call it that?
It's the season 3 finale, isn't it?
No, it's season
episode 9, right?
Remember, Game of Thrones always did the big stuff
9.
on the 9.
9.
Yeah.
The 9.
I'm surprised that a lot more people aren't saying that it's Baelor.
Baelor was further down. It was like 7 or 8 on the list. That's the one where Ned lost his head.
Yeah, that seems low because that was the episode
tell them.
where...
What do you want me to do?
Man, I don't know. The Red Wedding shook me. Like, I did not expect...
Hang on. John's over here questioning listener choices, and I think we should hear him out.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why Baelor, I think, is actually a much more powerful episode is that that's the one where if you got your friends into the show, if you got people to start watching it, that's the one that really pushed people over the edge to being like, oh my God, they just cut somebody's head off. I can never stop watching this show.
Nobody's safe.
Because nobody's safe. That's the episode right there. So I mean, I get it. The Red Wedding was impactful. It was something else, but nothing shook me in that show nearly as much as Baelor did. I wasn't a book reader. I did not see what happened to Ned happen.
Well, Red Wedding, I mean, basically, you thought it was going to be a sweet little dinner party, and it ended up being a bloodbath. So that was kind of surprising too. And just, Ned was quite surprising, but the Red Wedding, I didn't know that was messed up. The whole thing was just messed up and brilliant, by the way.
And the fact that it gets the callback then in season 7.
Oh yeah. You get the payoff for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. So then we got number 2 is Doctor Who Blink. I can't speak to this at all because I've never seen it.
That one's the episode of Doctor Who where if you want to turn somebody into a Doctor Who fan, that's what you get them to watch.
That's the
first.
Weeping Angels episode, right?
Yeah, that's the first time we see the Weeping Angels, and Doctor Who is only in it for about 5 minutes of the entire episode. But otherwise, he's talking to you. He's talking to the main character, who's I can't remember who's playing the main character. I know she's a bigger actress now, but
so the Doctor Who episode that'll turn you into a Doctor Who fan doesn't have Doctor Who in it. Is what you're telling me?
Yeah, it's because it's brilliantly done. There's a lot of art. There's a lot of art.
Can you watch it standalone?
Yeah.
Okay,
Which doctor is it for that episode?
Tennant.
Okay.
Well,
I'm
shit.
interested.
No.
And the Weeping Angels are like, you never want to encounter a Weeping Angel ever.
It's they're by far it's the first time you meet them, and you never want to meet them.
I mean, it's like what you would think like an actual angel might actually be. if you believe in them.
Okay, that's enough, Troy. Stop selling it. You piqued the interest.
Yep.
That's enough.
We both went,
Now he's going to start threatening us. If you really even like television, you would have watched this episode because that's how you do it. And you got to
if
watch.
you're really my friend, you'll watch it.
You got to at least watch the first 3 seasons of Tenet. Otherwise, you're not really trying. You're not even giving Who a shot.
Well, no, Aaron, I'm going to tell you right now, Aaron, you should never watch Doctor Who, but you should watch that episode.
I have watched Doctor Who, and I don't like it. So
that's what I'm saying. Well, I didn't know you had watched it, but I'm also saying Doctor Who's not a show for you.
No, it's not. But I'll watch that episode if it's really that good. I mean, I'll give everything a fair shot.
Yeah, that episode is the best, one of the best episodes of television.
Then I have to watch it. Otherwise, I would feel like I was cheating the world.
Right.
And also, I like Reigns of Castamere more than Baelor, but whatever. Number 1, Amanda apparently is number 1 because it's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Body. Is number 1 most impactful. Which actually, that doesn't surprise me because I don't know anybody that's actually seen the episode that didn't get punched in the gut from it. I mean, it's really
just
a movie
so
episode.
real.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised with the cancel culture that it still came out number 1.
What does one have to
Because
do?
of
Let's not
Joss.
invoke that.
Because of Joss.
Let's not invoke it. Let's not invoke it.
You know what? We can still, enjoy what we enjoy. Doesn't matter what that
Right.
did.
Right. And by the way, just for the record, you never want to play a game of staring contest with Justine Sutherland because she doesn't blink the entire time. When she was on camera filming, she
You mean
blinked
Christine?
once. Or Christine Sutherland?
Do you guys not know anybody? Like this poor woman
No,
has
it's
been.
the same actress, like in
this
her
poor
character.
woman, her character and her as an actress have been called the wrong thing multiple times.
Not even closely related, though, either. Well,
Sutherland.
Judith and Joyce are kind of close, but
I had Sutherland, right?
you did. Yeah, you did. Yeah.
But she like literally does not blink the entire. She blinked once when they filmed it on camera, and the one time she blinked on camera, they CGI'd it out so it didn't look like it happened.
Yeah, it's very daunting to look at.
It's creepy.
So funny. All right, well, share your thoughts on this episode or anything else on our Facebook group or on Twitter at Buy Popcorn on Twitter, The Hollywood Outsider on Facebook. Our site is thehollywoodoutsiders.com. You can rate and subscribe us on your preferred podcast app. You can also find John's artwork on Insta and at Twitter at Arjon Draws, Amanda on Veronica's Marshmallows and Smirkin at Sink Into This, me on The Blacklist Exposed with Troy Heinritz, who's also at Troy Heinritz, and I'm also on Presenting Hitchcock and at Aaron Smirks. Before we head out, one more thing. Movie manners. Sometimes we like to do a game or talk about one little thing on the way out the door. And we have this topic where we talk about movie manners, where little things that bother us and whatnot. But let's talk about when you watch a movie at home with your friends or family, what are your rules? Do you guys have rules when you watch stuff at home? And I don't mean like the casual, Schitt's Creek's on for the 14th time. I don't mean that. I mean when you're actually sitting around, we're going to watch a movie together, we're going to watch a show together. Do you have rules?
My rules are dependent on what we're watching. If it's something that's stupid and silly, then it's you can do whatever you want.
You can be on your phone. You can just you don't care. None of that bothers you.
Yeah, I mean as long especially if it's something super.
I'm going to talk to you while we're watching this show. That's fine too.
God, I was in the middle of a sentence and you just did that to me. No, it's not fine.
It triggered him. That's exactly what happens when you're watching it.
Jesus. But if it's stupid and funny, then crowd interaction is not only appreciated, but it's also encouraged. If it's something that's a little bit more serious, then shut up. Just shut up and don't say another word. Let's just watch it. Don't ask me what happened or why it happened. I'm sure they're going to tell you because there's a script and they're going to probably follow most of it. Stop asking me. I haven't seen it yet.
We're watching the same thing.
You know what?
Yeah,
That's funny. I can't
up.
tell you how many times I tell my wife will ask a question about a show that's on TV, and I'll go, "I'm watching the same show you are." I'm watching. What is going on with that guy? Da, da, da. I'm like, I'm watching the same show you are. I literally have no idea. I've never seen this either.
Right. And right now, like, especially when it comes to serious things, my movie buddy is my dad, and he is the worst movie buddy to have because
Poor
he's
dad.
constantly
Wow.
he's constantly trying to like outsmart the movie or the television show. And he will smack me to tell me what it is. It's the man in the clown suit, and it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that. I'm like, yeah, can we just watch it, Dad? Can we please?
Could have enjoyed it too, Dad, if it wasn't for you and your stupid kids and their dog.
Yeah. I have certain rules depending on what it is, but currently, my way my life is going, they're all being challenged.
That's funny.
Poor John.
Much like the movie theater, I do not want to see your phone in my line of vision. 2, no talking. 3, if you have to cross the field of view, you must army crawl.
You must army crawl. Your poor kids are down there on all fours like, Dad, please don't beat us. Please don't take away our electronics.
If you stand up and break the line of sight, you are dead. Better not even come out of
And
your
your
room
kids
for
won't
another week.
challenge you because he actually like limits their internet. He can just go up and turn off their specific signals. They can't even be on
Damn
the
straight.
internet.
Every device.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's intense.
One touch of a button. Follow the rules. The movie does not pause for anyone to go to the bathroom unless I go to the bathroom.
You're so ridiculous. That is the most Troy thing I've ever heard in my freaking life. It doesn't happen unless it's for me.
I hope you guys got a pee too because it's time for me to go. Better wash your hands fast too because I don't take that long.
I mean, Troy's in his 40s. You know, he goes to the bathroom a lot now.
Not as much as Aaron.
Yeah, I got to pee when I got to pee.
It's getting there.
Is that the end of your list? Because you have a lot of rules. I just want to make sure.
They wear shock collars at all times.
Nothing corn,
Shock
no
collars.
corn chip related. Corn chips smell. There's no food that smells.
Plus they go,
And whenever his wife says a word, he gets to go, woman!
And then Tracy smacks him across the
that's
face.
a nice callback. And she beats him silly, yeah.
John was waiting all show to use that one.
My rules are less rules. It depends on who I'm with. Like if it's somebody that I know has very specific needs, like they're like, I get irate and angry, like Aaron. I get irate and angry if people have their phones out near me. Then it's like, okay, I'll be respectful, even if it's my house, and I'll try to keep it away or something. If it's something like Game of Thrones where I'm watching it, even if it's just, just the two of us or something, that stays away. The phone stays away. There's not communication unless we're in the most quiet scene possible. But for the most part, pretty lenient about like phones and stuff. Like it doesn't bother me that much. I am very, very particular about your chewing though. If I hear you freaking chewing,
That's so annoying.
close your mouth, shut those lips. I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. Even if it's my dogs,
Yeah,
be quiet.
What kind of monsters are taught to chew with their mouth open? Like what kind of savage did you grow up to be? You can't close your mouth when you chew. You can't have a little respect for your common man. Like I need to see what you eat and hear it. I don't understand, you savage. I don't understand.
It literally makes my blood boil.
Yeah, that's not a cool thing. That's not a cool thing. And in the theater, it's awful because some guy is going to have popcorn. He's like, nom, 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 nom. He's got to open his mouth wide open and just crunch down. And then if they do it at home, I'll take the bowl and I'll throw it. On principle.
That's about it, though.
My rule, I put your phone down. If we've seen it before, I don't care as much, obviously, because I've already seen it. But if it's something new, I don't want to see your phone. Sit your ass down. Shut it. Don't ask me 400 questions. If you talk while other people are talking, there's a good chance I leave the room and I just go somewhere else and watch it. That's directly pointed to my wife.
You basically want to watch stuff alone. That's what you're
really
telling me
do
right
sometimes. Because I can't tell you. It's almost, I don't know if you guys have this in your houses, but I feel like she does it on purpose where she's waiting for people to talk to ask a pivotal question. You could be watching The Witcher and they have at least a good minute or two of beautiful scenery, a sweeping vista, and we have all the time in the world where you could ask this goddamn question nobody cares about. But no, you got to wait until Henry Cavill's beautiful lips part and whatever he's saying comes out. And I'm like, hang on, let me rewind that. Because I didn't know what was going on during that moment.
Well, because she spends the time, she finally gets a break in the talking and we're looking at scenery. And so she starts thinking about things. And then her question pops in her head.
Sounds like she's thinking slow. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Amanda?
I did not say that. Do not put those words in my mouth.
That's what I heard.
I can just hear it now. Aaron, do you want a PB&J? God damn it. No, wait. Yes, I do want a PB&J. Can you just wait till like the quiet times to ask me that?
I would still be mad. Yes. You don't ask questions while people are talking. Like, that's the most important time to listen to something, as a rule. Okay. Well, I think that'll do it.
All right, so are we done bitching about our home
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, I feel like that's the entire purpose of this right here.
Thank God these people don't listen to our podcast. All right. Well, that's going to do it
Yeah, right.
for this episode. Remember, everybody, next time you head to a theater or stream comfortably from your couch, buy popcorn.
I can't hear two things at once.
If you need to take a call, just tell me before you just answer the phone.
Oh,
I'm okay with pausing.
you know
But
what I
just
hate?
tell me.
This is a thing. And when the call is answered, I feel like it's always put on speakerphone, no matter what room we happen to be in. And I can't for life of me understand this. Why do you have to have it on speakerphone in every goddamn room?
So you can do other stuff
But
while
you
you're on
hear
the
it
phone.
in the whole house. So
Yeah, it's
it's
unfortunate.
really difficult to, I'm watching something. Oh, yeah, I'm going to take his call. I'm going to make sure not be rude. I'm just going to go in the other room so you can watch that thing you're watching on speakerphone.